Hi, I'm Stephen Padillo, Director of Coaching with USBC. We're here today in Lake Wales, Florida at the Kegel Training Center, and we've got a great opportunity to work with a great staff. Mr. Del Warren, who's the Vice President of the Kegel Training Facility. He's also the Director of Bowling for Weber University. We got a great chance to work with him and his program and learn a little bit about the Weber Way.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for you guys being here. We're going to cover maybe 3 key elements in team bowling. And coaching a team and developing a team is much different than doing a lesson for individuals or coaching a touring player. There's a lot of different elements that if you're going to have a successful program, we have found through a lot of trial and error that you have to be excellent at if you're going to have a group of people all focus on one thing and get them to be the best they can be.
Excellent. Yeah, we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about how you coach as well as what those players are actually doing on the lanes, because you've had quite a bit of success with the program.
Well, it is pretty intricate, and we're going to cover 3 key elements that I think the coaches and the players are going to find very interesting, and and above all, it's a lot of fun too.
Great. So let's go take a look at what the Weber Way is and learn a little bit more about the great facility here in Lake Wales, Florida.
You know, one of the keys in team is communication and observation. So every week we do observation drills, and that's really key on watching ball motion. And as we know today, creating margin of error is the key to success. Right. So margin of error also leads to confidence. And so if one person has confidence, it tends to bleed into the team, and that leads to having 8 people being very, very confident when it's their turn to bowl. So really having the whole team focused and the coach on each particular shot and each particular player is an absolute key, and so that everybody's on the same page of what the ball's doing, and when somebody makes a shot and maybe it doesn't hit the pocket, they instantly communicate to the team whether they thought it was them or it was the lane. So, and then over time, as you practice this and you go to tournaments, they learn to trust each other completely. So if Verity says, you know, I need to make a 2-and-1. The person that's following them, maybe hitting flush in the pocket, they don't even hesitate. They make a 2-and-1 instantly. So that has to be built up over the course of the season as your teams change. And we have to practice that intense observation and also a common communication so that our language is known and the words, the definitions, are known throughout the team, and they know immediately what that person's talking about.
So no wasted time. You guys are limited on time, number one, when you get to the event, as far as when you practice, as far as getting prepared for it. And so with the communication that you guys are going to work on it and the way you do that, no wasted shots. You have to know from start to finish what each shot's going to do. You have to learn about that quickly. Then you have to feed back and react to exactly what you're seeing and start setting up the lanes.
That's correct. And it's got to be a natural thing. It's not something you think about to where they're just reacting. Mm-hmm. All right. And then once that's established, then we can do our breakdown process. What's interesting in college bowling, you normally get 15 minutes, 7.5 on each lane, and it's the only time that you actually get to carve the lane the way you want to play it. So our process really is USBC, just college bowling changed the rules last year and said that our 2 most important events is sectionals and nationals, where they don't give us any information at all. So it took us about 30 minutes to figure out how we were going to deal with that. And so as you'll see is Kendall will go up there and throw the first shot, and he'll throw a very shiny ball down the middle of the lane very slowly. And what that's going to do is everybody's going to have their eyes glued on that ball. That's going to give us the length of the pattern. We want to know what that is, and that's going to kind of establish pretty much where we're going to play. We're also looking a little bit about the volume because we can kind of see how easy that ball pushes down the lane. Mm-hmm. Then the next 2 players are going to throw, in the video we're going to have 5 players, but the next 2 players, when we have 8, 2 players are going to play the gutter. So we're going to see if the corners play. One is going to go at the 10 pin to see if 1-2 bumps off the 1-2. And the other person is actually going to throw it kind of at the 6 pin if they're right-handed to see if there's any hold from the gutter. From those 3 shots, the team will have a quick huddle. They'll decide where they're going to play and where they're going to burn, just like that. It literally takes them. And then if they're not sure, they'll duplicate that process again. And then once the team has a consensus and a little bit of feedback from the coach, they'll decide where they're going to slide specifically and where they're going to throw it to their focal point, and then they're going to burn the rest of the practice session until they get that spot the way they want it.
Okay, we've seen how the Weber way attacks the lanes whenever they don't have the information at a sectionals or a national event. So now we really want to find out, when they give you information, what do you do when you already have that program sheet in front of you, or you've got some data? How do you take it from there?
Well, Stephen, information is powerful, both for the coach and the player. So normally we have a coaches meeting and they hand out the pattern. They'll go over some details, and what I do from there is I'll huddle the team up. I'll pass, a lot of times they'll give us copies and we'll pass it around, and we'll go over the key elements first, which is one, the lane surface, what kind of lane surface it is. And a lot of times we bowl in the same venues, so we're very familiar, but if we're not, we'll talk about the lane surface. Secondly, the pattern length, and that'll kind of give us, again, an area of the lane, down the lane where we're going to be. The volume, which may dictate a little bit about what kind of surfaces and how much flare we're going to use. And then a little bit about the shapes and where the loads are, because sometimes, this doesn't happen often, but sometimes the pattern length and where the loads are don't coincide with each other, or the lane surface of the topography that we know. We may be bowling on a 40-foot pattern, but we also may be a reminder, because we keep notes of the tournaments every year, that this particular center, no matter what they do, plays outside of 5. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing that is, we're all on the same page as a team. Mm-hmm. We all have an open discussion. We answer any questions that any of the players may have, because every year the team changes. And at the same time, if everybody's on the same page, the most important thing is that the team has confidence. Confidence leads to good shot making, and that information is really powerful for players and coaches alike. And but here's the kicker: as soon as you start that process, all your decisions are based on what you see down the lane. So what I want to emphasize to the coaches and the players here is, you come up with a plan, but really you react to what you see.
You get a game plan, you got an idea, and that program sheet is great. You got great information, and you've done your homework, like you said, on the centers you've been to, and you really have a great picture. But you're not going to necessarily follow that game plan, because the lanes are going to change, the environments are different, the bowlers are going to be different year to year. So you have to always be fluid and flexible when it comes to working with your players.
It's just like bowling, and bowling is you have to be versatile. So Stephen, once we're on the same page, then we go through kind of the same process. All right, we decide where we're going to burn, exactly where we're going to slide. That's really important. If we say we're going to slide on 15 and we're going to go over 7 or 8 or 6 or where we're going to do, and we're going to throw it to a certain spot, everybody has to slide 15. So everybody has to know what their drifts are, and we practice that every week. And then 4 of our bowlers will burn, and 4 of our bowlers will actually throw plastic or urethane, so we push oil down the lane. The biggest key for us is, we on fresh have to have a little bit of hold area. So those 4 players, they also have to be on the same page of where we're going to slide and where we're going to throw that oil down, because we're actually pushing oil to a spot, and then we're going to utilize that as hold, and then we're going to utilize the burn as hook. And we can actually design the lane exactly the way we want. Now the kicker here is, maybe when we're bowling with the other team, is we try to have a team discussion with them and say, listen, this is our plan. Let's get kicked off together, because it's to our benefit to work together. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, the teams are very receptive to that, because it's to their benefit as well. And then when we flip lanes after 7.5 minutes, the ones that we're throwing plastic throw burn, and the ones that we're throwing burn throw plastic. So that gives everybody an equal look. And after a while, it just becomes automatic.
As you can see, it's not just about going out and reading the lane. You need to have a plan, you need to be flexible, and overall, you need to make sure that you're prepared when you get ready to go compete. Okay, let's talk about lane patterns. There's a lot of options nowadays when it comes to lane machines, when it comes to tools. We've got one of the premier experts in the field of lane maintenance. We have John Jennings with us here, and we're going to get a chance to talk about just lane patterns and what it means to a bowler. Now, John, you're a pattern specialist and a lane technician here at Kegel, mm-hmm. So you got a lot of experience running lane machines all around the world. Yep. And a lot of experience as well as bowling on them. So you've got an expertise that kind of fits multiple places. So it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what do lane patterns mean to bowlers? So real quickly, just in your opinion, what are some of the things that if I'm looking at a lane pattern as a player, I want to pay attention to, and what am I going to do when I see this information?
Well, the three of the main things that you want to be looking at is, one, your oil pattern distance, because one good general rule of thumb is taking the pattern distance and subtracting 31. That kind of gives you an idea about what board down the lane you want your ball to be at as it's exiting the oil pattern. Now, there's going to be some other factors that are going to determine whether the best part of the lane, whether it be maybe a little bit farther left or a little farther right of that, that'll give you more margin of error, such as the lane surface. Higher friction lane surface it'll probably be a little bit farther right. Lower surface friction surface it'll probably be a little bit farther left. Same thing with the actual oil pattern load structure. If the load structure is a little bit wider, then you're going to probably want that exit point is going to probably be a little bit farther right. But the one main thing is, like I said, the actual pattern distance. That'll tell you where you want your ball at as a good starting point at the end of the oil pattern.
In reference to what we may see on a program sheet, sometimes you look at the number series on the side of the page and it says 2 to 2 there. What does 2 to 2 mean?
Okay, basically what that refers to is it's a line of oil from the tube bore on the left to the tube bore on the right. Now, with the flex lane machine and a lot of the previous generations of the Kegel lane machines, the machine applies oil pretty much like an inkjet printer. You've got an oil head that moves back and forth at a constant rate, and there are four main things in the program, of the design of the program sheet, that we can control. Now, we can control the amount of 2 to 2s going forward and the reverse, and we can also control what board that line of oil will start and stop on. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a 2 to 2, it can be a 7 to 7, it can be a 10 to 10, it can be a 15 to 15. So we can control what board that line of oil starts and stops on. We can control the number of those loads, lines of oil, what we call loads, going forward and in the reverse. Okay. We can control the speed of the lane machine. Now, if you apply one of these lines of oil from 2 to 2 right at the foul line, and then you just buff it all the way to the end of 39 feet, well, you're not going to have a lot of oil right near the end of the oil, right near the gutter. But if you apply 4, 5, 6 of those as the machine's being applied going forward, you're going to get a lot more conditioner right toward the outside at the end of the oil pattern, which, obviously, as you know, the more oil you get toward the gutter down the lane, the ball's not going to hook. Now, so you're probably not going to be able to swing it very much. So, the number of 2 to 2s will have a lot to do, by looking at that in the oil pattern graph, especially going forward, will kind of give you an idea about how much you're going to be able to swing the ball toward the outside. Okay. The other thing you want to look at too is the oil pattern volume. Now, like I said, in today's game, the average oil pattern distance for house patterns and a lot of competitive patterns is around 23 to 24 milliliters. Now, you might go to a tournament and you might see 27 or 28 milliliters. Well, that may seem like a lot of oil, but in any case it is, but you have to also look at the kind of lane surface that's being applied to. If it's an older surface with, or a very high surface friction synthetic or maybe wood lanes, you still might see a lot of hook even with 28, 29, 30 mils. So, the lane surface in those regards will still have, will still be the biggest dictator of, how much friction you're going to see total in the pattern. But, at least knowing the amount of volume that you're going to have on the lane will kind of at least give you an idea from an equipment standpoint about maybe how strong of a cover stocks you might need, or, for that matter, how strong, how strong of a ball or how strong of a range of bowling balls you may need.
Okay, so those three basic things, it sounds pretty simple. If I know the distance, I do a little bit of math, I can figure out maybe where to get the ball down the lane. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking at the number of 2 to 2s, like you mentioned, that's going to maybe give me an idea of how much of an angle I may want to play toward the gutters as to how much hold I have or how much dry and friction I've got. Right. And then the third thing you mentioned was the volume. The volume is going to help me kind of dictate maybe which bowling ball I'm going to use, how strong of a surface, what kind of a cover stock, and give me an idea of maybe in my arsenal where to go. So 3 great things looking at a program sheet. If you really want to just gather some information and take it out there and apply it right away that you can look at, and that's great information moving forward so that our players will have a good understanding of what they're looking at and how to make that part of their competition, part of their play.
Absolutely.
Okay, as with any other sport, bowling is a physical activity, and we got to get prepared when we get on the lanes. Dale, your program is very adamant about their warm-up routine. They've got a set amount of time they usually go through a program. Talk a little bit about what you guys do and how that affects your competition.
Well, with the help from the trainers, the physical trainers at Weber, they've really gotten bowling specific, sport specific, and we've changed this almost every year as we've learned more and they've become more involved. So really hats off to those guys. And our warm-up now is between 12 or 13 minutes, and there's some really important aspects that they have to cover in order to make sure that the body is fully warmed up for any physical activity. One is muscle activation. So there are exercises in there that actually activate the muscles between the muscles and the brain that they're going to use when they're going to throw a bowling ball. Another one is blood flow. We want to make sure that the blood is going to all the extremities and all the muscles, and that the body is fully warmed up. And then finally, you know, and I didn't know this, but the signal that the body is actually ready to do something physical is you start to sweat. So our kids are already starting to sweat prior to the lanes coming on for 15 minutes of practice. So we don't waste any time using the 15 minutes of practice to actually throw bowling, you know, to use that time to actually warm up. They are warmed up. So we are in full 100% mode on the very first shot and ready to go.
So you're not wasting any shots. You're not out there trying to just get relaxed and get warmed up on the first few. You are ready to perform. Now, the physical conditioning also that goes on throughout the year, your program also encourages that. You have your players actually work with the university, I believe, and you guys develop plans for each individual on your program.
That's true. They go through a physical evaluation. They do a lot of measurements. A lot of the kids that come in really have never done a sport per se, so they're new to the gym. And then we have other kids that live in the gym. So number one, there's generic team training, and that helps with the team bonding. And then they have their individuals. They have 3 mandatory trainings that they have to go to during the week. A lot of times the guys fall in love with it, and what happens is, you know, they live in the gym. But it's very important that they do the exercises correctly, and we actually see the bodies change over the course of a year. It's crazy. We actually had one of our freshmen a couple years ago lose 100 pounds during the course of the season, and it really changed his life. So the physical conditioning is not really about them being in better shape per se to throw a ball. It really is about helping them prevent injuries. Because when you're their age, they can bowl forever almost and really not, you know, get tired. But what happens is, like, for example, if their core isn't strong, then other parts of their body start to compensate for the movement of throwing a ball, and then that leads eventually to a knee injury or a low back injury or a hip injury.
Sure. So not just the warm-up phase that you guys go through, but the conditioning also adds to that player coming out of your program, or out of really any program that incorporates this, as a better physical athlete. That's what we need in this sport, and that's great to see that happening here at Weber University and with your program here at Heckle Training Center. Okay, let's talk about drills. The program that you guys have in place to help your players get better from the time they land as a Weber Warrior to the time they've graduated and gone through their process. They're going to go through several drills, and they're going to be specific enough to help them get better, but they're also going to be a little more generic. Talk to us briefly about what the drill system is you guys have and how it's implemented with your players.
Well, we use 5 basic drills, and they all target something very specific, from swing and timing and body position and release. All the key elements are built in, and it allows them to train on their own once they learn the drill specifically, without a coach needing a coach. And they get so good at it that by doing the drills, the factors that we're trying to change in their physical game, they kind of come together, and their game changes literally in front of your eyes.
So just in the drills alone, without having to give them an individual lesson, because when you look at it, there's quite a few of them in the program. There's only so many coaches. You really just can't get out there with them every day or even once a week maybe and get an individual lesson to make that player get a lot better. These drills are taking them and making them better kind of on their own, right?
Yeah, you know, not to sound old school or some sort of cliche, but we really believe in the fundamentals. And these 5 drills cover the fundamentals of the modern game today and the challenges that they're going to face on the lane, which is what we call the tactical. So without the physical game, they can't perform the tactical, which is the environment. And everything we do in bowling is all based on the environment. So, and they get into a routine and they get really good at them, and they understand that when they come here that this is to their benefit.
So let's take a quick look. We've got some of these drills, and let's go over a little bit of what's going on and specifically talk about what you're seeing and what this drill is doing for the player.
Great. So the first drill is called the foul line drill. And this drill is to simulate the position at the foul line, and also it's also used as a release drill. So you can see that she's going to get her wrist below the knee, somewhere near her ankle. She's going to get her trail leg at about 7 o'clock. Her head's going to be about 1 o'clock. She's going to have some forward body lean. Her left arm's going to be out to the side. Her thumb is going to be turned down. She's going to have some firmness in this left shoulder. The ball is going to be inside of her shoulder, as close to the ankle as possible. The forearm is going to be forward. And here's the key. When she does the swing, she's going to do about an 8 to 12-inch swing only, from up to back to through. And what she's going to practice is unloading the hand at the bottom, letting the hand kind of go to the floor, and she's going to try to roll the ball, but she's not going to try to throw it hard. Well, this is our toughest drill. It's called the swing and slide. And the reason why it's the toughest is it really focuses on some key areas. So you'll notice she'll get in a position to where she can take 1 step from the foul line. Both feet will be together. She'll have all her weight on her right leg, and she'll actually pull her heel up a little bit on her left leg. Her left foot will be back slightly. She'll be in almost like a ski position to start. The ball will be hung down by her side. She will not swing it until she gets set. Her left arm will be pointed down, and it will be in front of her left leg. A lot of times when the bowlers bowl today, they get their hips too open to the target line, they get their left arm too open and their shoulder too far back, and they get twisted. So one of the main functions of this drill is to create a straight line and get this left side in the correct position without over rotating, because we see that a lot. Left arm is going to be down in front, thumb is going to be turned down so that there's some stress on this left shoulder, and the ball is going to be hanging down. Now once she gets set, this right knee's got to be flexed, her rear end's got to be back in a ski position, an athletic position. Then she'll push the ball up to her hand, let the ball swing back, and right as it gets to the top of the swing, she'll make sure that her left side or her slide foot gets in front of the ball, and then she'll stick her finish. Right? It's really important that she doesn't pull down from the top. It's really important that she creates separation with her legs. It's really important that her left side, she goes from down to up so that the shoulder functions properly. And again, she's not going to try to throw this ball very hard. She's just going to let her body move from the ball from the top of the swing to the finish position. In order to get the proper sequence, we believe that the last 3 steps in a 5-step approach should be long, short, slide. So they'll actually get set in the position like they're gonna throw the ball. They'll place the ball into the swing with a hinge, so they're not going to over push out, but they're not going to go down either. They'll get a little momentum with their swing, and they're going to wait for the ball to get to where the ball is hanging down from their shoulder, and that first step with their left foot is going to be long. All right? So now as the foot gets, the reason why the foot needs to get long is that gives the ball time to climb to the top of the swing. At the same time, they're going to just slightly go forward with their body angle, and it's going to be long, short slide, or long, short slide in that rhythm, and we teach them that rhythm. Almost we get them to clap so they can feel the rhythm. So it's long, short slide, all right? And then, so that sets up their timing. This is more of a rhythm drill, and what they have to do is they start from the back of the approach with the ball in their opposite hand, and they just start walking to the foul line, and as they get the ball into the swing, they're not really trying to hit anything. They put their hand in the ball, and they let their right side kind of go with the swing, and it kind of collapses their right side to create a nice swing slot. And then they just throw it. And first, they're amazed at how easy it is because they're not trying to be mechanical. And secondly, many times in tournaments when the team is locked up a little bit, I'll call shoulder collapse drill, and we'll bowl literally using this drill, and it will get us right back on pace and right back in rhythm, because it's not bowling anymore, because they're literally starting on the approach. They don't, and they're not their normal setup, so they're not running the program in their brain called bowling. They're just doing this drill. And all of a sudden the ball flies off their hand, the ball goes where it wants to go, it's got good rev rate and everything, and it helps them get their confidence back. So the backup drill is really, again, multifunctional. We believe that you go 0-axis rotation for most of your spares. You take the lane completely out of play. You don't have to overthrow the ball. You know the ball is going to go straight, and you really, many times you don't even need a plastic ball if you go low axis rotation. So again, this drill kind of wraps everything up. We start at the foul line, we move back as we go, and all 5 of these cover all the key elements that we see in the modern game today.
Great technically sound information from start to finish. It really builds, like you said, a good system for anybody that wants to compete. Don't be afraid to take the information here and use it yourself. It's not just applicable to the team environment. Any individual can go through this drill process and get better at their game. So thanks for sharing the information. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing and maybe even using these drills down the road in our own leagues or competitions. Okay, let's talk about timing. We're here with Coach Dell, and Dell, you've had some experience not just adjusting timing with some of your teammates, but you've had it happen in actual tournament experience. And we're going to briefly talk a little bit about what timing is, and you've got a great drill that applies to maybe adjusting somebody's timing in a particular situation. Tell us a little bit about the drill.
Well, to answer your first question, what is timing? It's trying to get your legs and your arm kind of sequenced up with the weight of the ball so that you're delivering the maximum amount of energy as efficient as possible with a consistent release. And it's changed over the years a little bit because as we've learned more about biomechanics and how the body moves and the need for more speed and more revolutions, new styles have come along that actually I think have taught the coaches more about timing than vice versa. So we had a Weber Warrior on our team, Colin Champion, who traditionally had very, very late timing, and under pressure it would affect his ability to get the ball in line. So as we know, if we're extremely early or extremely late, it can affect the direction of the ball. And so we worked with him, and all of the coaches here, the traditional fixes didn't seem to really work or last. And so just by tinkering around, we developed the drill that we're going to show you that actually he bowled like this for 6 months and took it into the latter part of the season, and now and actually won the Hoosier singles event last year, which is the biggest singles events in college bowling. There's more participants in one venue than there actually is intercollegiate singles, and he bowled phenomenal, and that's how he bowls today. So we actually, through kind of a need, developed this drill, and it really lends to rhythm. It really lends to the right sequencing, a free swing, and all the elements that you like to talk about when you watch a good bowler that's really synced up good and he looks efficient.
So we'll have a demonstration right here in front of us. Go ahead and talk us through it as we're going through the demonstration. Tell us what to look for, keep an eye on, and maybe exactly what the fix was when you were working with Colin.
Okay, so Ramon's going to get set up in a traditional position, only he's going to be holding the ball down, and his left arm's going to be in front, almost like the swing and slide drill, and then he's going to start swinging the ball back and forth. And as the ball comes back and goes through, when it gets to the leg, he's going to start his first step. And you can see it looks just like a regular shot. So the key here is when he's going to swing the ball back and forth twice. When the ball gets here, as it approaches the leg, when it gets to this area right here, he's going to start his first step. Okay. And the key here is, especially the last 3 steps, we're going to go long, short slide, just like we do with the 3-step drill. And but the key here is to get it started correctly on time. Is when the ball approaches the leg going that direction, that's when you start your first step. And your first 2 steps are just normal steps, and we really want to emphasize long, short slide in the end. And that's just, it really frees up the swing, and actually Ramon didn't used to do it, but with the success that Colin was having, a lot of the players started to try it, and it really kind of cleaned up a lot of their rhythm problems. And to me, there's a window for timing, as you know. Not all timing is exactly the same, but there's a window of kind of what works, you know. And once you start getting outside of that window, you start creating some problems. And so we really like this drill. And again, Ramon kind of picked up on it just by watching Colin, and we've kind of implemented it here with people that have issues getting the ball into the swing properly and the proper footwork, and it works really well.
I've got Coach Randy Stoughton with me here. He's one of the teaching professionals here in the facility, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tools they've got here, and particularly what you can do to measure launch angle. You mentioned to me in the past that launch angle is pretty important when it comes to analyzing a player's game. You got a great tool in the computer tracking system that'll help you use it. Tell us a little bit about what it is and kind of how you use it.
Well, the launch angle is the direction of the ball as it leaves your hand on its pathway down towards the break point, which in today's game is, away from the pocket. We're throwing the ball away from the head pin, which means we need to have a specific target down lane to shoot at, otherwise known as a break point. And the launch angle is what type of angle is the ball traveling at from the moment it leaves your hand to the moment it gets to that spot on the lane. And we use that tool regularly here in the training facility as a means to help the bowler who is transitioning from house shot leagues into sport leagues, because they're always wondering, why is my average 20, 30, 40 pins less than in sport versus when I'm bowling in my house shot leagues? It's because of they just don't have the concept of direction off the hand to the break point going away from the head pin, because the house shot kind of helps you with that in the pattern itself. The oil and the dry are set up that if you know how to play that house shot just right, it'll guide the ball down the lane for you. Whereas in a sport environment, that oil to dry ratio is so much less, you don't get that help. And if you miss right, it goes right. You miss left, it goes left. So putting together a concept that says, I'm going to take this angle off my hand right here, is the measurement that we use from 11 to 15 feet on its pathway towards the break point, which is going to obviously take place after the end of the oil pattern. And most of your patterns today, house shots, are in that 40-foot category, what we would call a medium pattern. But in your sport patterns, they're going to incorporate some of those too, but they're also going to have some 47s, some 45s. They've got a mixed bag of donuts there. It can be as low as 32, as I think is the lowest one I've seen. So having something specific in your mind and on the lane to shoot at, and an angle to that, is going to be what we would relate to as a launch angle. And then of course your return angle is going to be called the entry angle.
So having this tool and being able to measure somebody's game really gives you a great concept and understanding of not only what they're doing, but instant feedback from shot to shot with this tool as to how you can adapt or adjust their game to help increase the repeatability of that same launch angle. So a great tool in the facility to go along with the expert coaching really gives you a good perspective on how to build launch angles accurately for whatever lane pattern they're going to be on.
Absolutely, and as the bowler has to move their body away from their comfort zone levels, a lot of people, just to give you some numbers, they want to slide on 20. That's kind of a typical house shot, between 20 and 25, and then they're going to throw the ball to 10 board and maybe 9-8, but it's going to be down lane. And what happens a lot of times is the bowler starts to move left because the environment starts to break down, but they don't move that spot, and they're actually looking at the arrows to hit 10 board. And that's where we start to see swings that get wrapped around their back, and to try to get that target line away from their ankle, and now you don't have good energy on the ball. It may get to the spot, but if it returns, it doesn't have anything to knock the pins over with, if it even returns at all. So it kind of cures the concept of that wraparound swing. It certainly puts us on the right path to fixing that problem.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into launch angle and identify how it would apply to our player, a little bit of what they're doing, maybe some alignment tools you can recommend for somebody that may want to play either a straighter launch angle and or a deeper one, and what kind of adjustments on the approach can they make?
Okay, well, your straighter launch angle bowlers are going to, in this case here where we're dealing with a 40-foot pattern, we use a formula called PL minus 31. That stands for pattern length, and 31 is sort of like our pi number. And so on a 40-foot pattern, PL minus 31 says 9 board is the magic number at the end of the pattern at 40 feet. So if you were going to have a 0 launch angle on that pattern, you would want to be sliding in the vicinity of 15 with your slide foot to get that arm swing to go straight down the line of 9. Now, as the lane breaks down, or as my game progresses into more of an inside-out type of bowler, I've got a pretty good rev rate, and I like to slow loop it. My name's Tommy Jones. I'm going to want to say 15 and 9 just don't go together for me. He's probably never going to start, anywhere right of 20 on that same pattern, and he'll probably progress all the way into 30, 35 as the environment starts to break down. But the concept is figuring out how to, matching up to the pattern and getting the lines to go to the break point. and everybody is going to have a different version of that based on their game, based on the ball that they have in their hand, based on the number of games already being bowled and the type of balls being used. All of these things factor into how you move across, and this launch angle is going to be very, very important in keeping up with that transition and understanding that your feet are going to move twice as much as your eyes to get the ball to go to the same location, using the oil to the left of the ball and dry to the right of the ball, which is what we're all searching for. And if you're not searching for it, start.
Okay, we've got a great opportunity here at the Kegel Training Center with Coach Randy Stoughton to really talk a little bit about one of your expertise, working with women bowlers. As the head coach of the women's university, or the Women's Weber University, it's a great opportunity for us to draw on your experience. And I know you've had some experience as well, even before the training center here, working with Ebonite and the female tour. So talk to us a little bit about your experiences with working with women, maybe a little bit how it's different, and just some of the things that you've done to be successful working with women.
The physical game is where we're going to go right here, and what we see, I don't know, it's an epidemic. I don't know any other way of saying it, but women bowlers have this knack for being one complete step late or even more. Deandra Asbati would be one of those people that would really comes to mind right off the get-go, and one of the greatest women bowlers of all time, no doubt about it. But that doesn't make her game a game that you would want to copy. She is very unique, and she did a very good job of it. Well, what we teach here is we teach the modern game. It's a physical game, it's an athletic game, and it requires extremely good timing and balance. And getting the ball into the swing on time is the real key to that, in my opinion. And what we're seeing nowadays is the old concept, the 1960s, 70s, and 80s ways of teaching, which incorporated the word uses of push away. And that push away in a four-step delivery, for whatever reasons, has a tendency to not finish itself, and it gets stuck right here, and then it finishes it after the second step. And now what was supposed to be done here is now being completed here. And now we're a whole step at a time. And what ends up happening after that is the swing gets rushed. The ball goes into the backswing, but it has to go around a leg. And now we start to see the swing get out of line. Not to mention, it's not going to reach its height that it needs to reach to have a powerful swing coming down and good linear ball speed coming off the hand. It's going to get depreciated because the length of the swing is so small. And the reason it was small is because the ball didn't get into the swing soon enough to create enough time for that swing to go up. So you take the late timing and you take the concept of I got to swing it around my leg, because now my leg is actually in the way of the swinging ball, and the head will go to the left, the swing will go to the right, and it's going to follow that same path on the way back. And now I don't have a straight line to my target, and I don't have any energy on the ball, I don't have any rev rate, I don't have any ball speed, and I don't have accuracy. None of those things are going to equal good bowling.
So with that liability, the way you adjust that or correction you make for that, it's in that initial timing step or when you start the approach?
It's all at the beginning, Stephen.
Okay.
Right at the beginning. Again, with a four-step delivery, what I teach is keep the elbow close to the body and hinge the ball into the swing and get it on top of the foot. And the other part of that incorporates the key is the crossover. So the right foot crosses over in front of the left foot, and the ball goes right down on top of it, and now the ball and the leg go into the swing together. And now I've got plenty of time because I still have 2 steps to go. And in the concept of that, I'm going to create a backswing, and I'm going to have energy coming off of it, and I'm going to have good balance, and my lines are going to be much easier to keep on target.
So a great tip with information for what you're seeing as a common issue in a lot of women bowlers today, and a way to correct that. Thanks for that tip. We appreciate that, and we look forward to maybe hearing some more options that you may have when it comes to women bowlers.
I got a million of them.
Okay, coaching tools. There's a lot of opportunity out there when it comes to helping somebody on and off the lanes, and they don't have to throw a ball to do it. You guys at the training facility here have a lot of options when it comes to tools. Tell us a little bit about what you're using and maybe how you're using it on the lanes.
Well, what we have here in our hands is a product called Eileen Bowling Buddies. And actually, I first heard about it. I did a seminar up in Milwaukee over a year ago, and they were there. And then we sent one of our coaches, Rick Wilsey, to Bowl U, which was, they were doing an event up in the Washington, D.C. area, and he came back really excited about the results they were getting. And so we contacted them. They sent us some tools to use, and we've been not only using them in our Weber program, but we use them every day when we're giving lessons, and they're very effective, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, as opposed to having to always throw a ball just to train yourself, these are, looks like maybe great tools to do this off the lanes and maybe even to have at home or at least in the training facility on the fly.
So we'll demonstrate a couple of them.
Great.
Okay, so for this particular, we're going to show you a couple of drills, but the first one here is just a little ball here. It's got 2 holes for you put your fingers in, and it's got a line around it so we can see the actual angle of the roll. So first one, we were just fooling around one day, and one of the hardest things for amateurs to do that lift the ball, and this is one way to create revolutions, but it's not the most efficient way, to teach them more of a modern release is just by taking this ball and throwing it into the floor. Okay? And what that does is it teaches the correct hand action where we're going to unload the hand to the floor and try to make this thing spin as fast as we can make it. And notice that the ball is actually bouncing forward. And the faster I do this, the faster it's going to bounce towards Stephen. And it's not an actual release. It's more of just getting the feeling that we want everything in bowling to go down. We want that ball to be released more on a downward blow or a downward motion. We definitely don't want to go up. You know, and you'll find that your thumb will come out a little bit cleaner. The rev rate will be higher. And at the same time, your actual, from lifting versus collapsing the wrist, the ball speed will be higher because you're going to be releasing it with gravity. You're going to get the aid of gravity as opposed to going up, which you'll actually get a deceleration. So I love this tool. We can just bounce this back and forth and get it. It's a new feeling for the student because especially if they've been bowling for a while, they're trying to get this upward motion and their thumb actually comes out late and it actually comes out in front of them. So for this second drill, we're going to utilize this line around the ball, and this is going to help us control our axis of rotation by showing us how our hand reacts and then giving us immediate feedback. When I toss this ball to Stephen, he tosses it back to me. So this line is incredibly valuable. So if I want to, for example, practice low axis rotation where the angle of the rev is actually in the direction that I'm throwing it, I can check that out immediately and get feedback because the line is going end over end in the same direction that I'm throwing it. All right? And I get to feel what that feels like and how I'm doing it. And literally right now I'm putting the weight more on my ring finger where the weight of the ball is more sitting in my ring finger. And this is small enough to where I can get it to fit in my palm. And it's very easy. And there is some weight to this. So now if I want to increase my axis rotation and I'm going to, for example, move to the inside part of the lane and I want to go away from the head pin, now I'm going to move the weight more towards my index finger or my middle finger. I can feel that and go ahead and let my wrist rotate around the ball. And immediately I get feedback and I can see the difference. And if I don't do it correctly, I can see that. And we don't have to be throwing a bowling ball. That's the beauty of this. We don't have to be putting any undue stress on our joints. We don't have to be knocking pins over. And we can focus on the technique. And I love this tool or tools like it because it takes the emphasis off of knocking pins over, which a lot of students, we get so into the results of knocking pins over that we really don't focus 100% on the skill that we're trying to learn. So this is a lot of fun, instant feedback, and anybody can do it. All right, we're going to demonstrate another great drill that we actually got from Bowl U. One of our coaches, Rick Wilsey, went to Washington, D.C. to go to Bowl U, and this is something he brought back. It's very, very simple. It's a lot of fun, and it's very effective. So what you're going to see is actually on the lane is a piece of yarn that we actually have from the foul line all the way almost to the pins. And the lane has been stripped so that our player here won't fall down. And then, and so you can use this line actually anywhere in your house or on the sidewalk. It doesn't have to be on a lane, but we just happen to use this here at the Kegel Training Center. And then what you're going to see here is Christus is going to take one of Eileen's bowling buddies and swing it back and forth. You can also use a bowling pin or any type of weight to do this. And his right foot is actually on the pink line, all right? And what he's going to do is when he gets set up, his head is going to be to the outside of the line, and it's going to stay there. And what we're trying to do is create a swing slot and a feeling of having a swing that goes back and forth and straight. And then as he goes into the slide foot is going to replace the previous foot right on top of that line. So that everything he does, the hips will stay perpendicular to the line, the swing will be up and down the line, and he'll actually have some forward body lean and some side tilt.
Okay, I think you see in a lot of today's game, players tend to pull down from the top of the swing, and they don't need to do that in their approach. We want to control as little bit of the swing as possible. We want it smooth. We don't want to pull down. So you've got a couple tips for that, or tools you can help us out with. What are we going to look at?
Well, again, we're using one of Eileen's bowling buddies here, and you can see it looks like a pin, and it's got two holes where you can put your fingers. And the whole idea is to get the player to feel connected to the bowling ball with a weight. And this has got a little bit of weight to it. So, and you're going to see that it gives you, if you do it incorrectly, we're going to get instant feedback. Okay? So what we're going to do is just kind of get in a stance where we can swing the object. And again, we're going to use our body to swing this thing. Now, most people get to the top of the swing, right? And they get here and they pull down from the top. And as you can see here, by pulling down from the top, this pin flops back, straight back. And it really pulls you around, puts a lot of stress on your shoulder. Most of the time, they have a hard time syncing this up and their body's completely out of time, and it will do this exactly. And so what we want to do is get them to feel themselves move their body to swing this object. And you can see when I'm connected, the pin doesn't move at all. And it's nice and smooth. And once they can do this nice and smooth, they get a completely different sensation. And you can see we're using our body and our shoulders to swing this object. And it stays connected and it's rhythmic. There's a rhythm to the swing, right? And once they do this, and however long it takes, because every customer is a little bit different, we see instant feedback as soon as they put their hand on the ball, and then they try to replicate that feeling. And it actually changes their timing, it changes their release. And but again, if you try to do this with a bowling ball, it takes a lot longer, and sometimes they never get it. So this is a great tool for that.
So the instant feedback, what you're talking about, is definitely something that goes immediately from the practice tool right onto the lanes, and you see that result immediately.
Yep.
Great.
All right, so we're here in the Pro Shop area at the Kegel Training Center, and over the years I've been drilling balls for probably 35 years now, and as time has gone on, I've learned more and more techniques on how to properly fit a hand and how to troubleshoot when we do get a hand that's injured or needs a fit adjustment. The other thing that I appreciate over time is that with the modern game, with throwing reactive bowling balls and the techniques now that we teach on how to open up the lane and what you have to do to be successful in today's environment, my appreciation is that the grip is more important than ever before. So we're going to talk about a base fit and maybe some items that can help you diagnose your own grip, or maybe take some issues to your local Pro Shop professional operator that he can improve your grip, which will help you improve your game. All right, so first thing is, everything starts with a professional grip, which starts with the span. The span helps determine the pitches. It helps determine how the hand lays in the ball. Everything comes off the span. So if the span is incorrect to begin with, a lot of the things that are going to follow are not going to be the best situation for the bowler as well. So the first thing that I always do is I draw on the bowler's hand. And Josh Camacho here is a junior at our Web International program. We've probably done this process with you a few times since you've been here. We've checked his grip probably at least twice a year, once in the beginning of the season, once at the end of the season, because at his age, his hand is still changing. As you notice here on his two fingers, we have 3 lines. The two outside lines represent the two joints where the finger bends. And then the middle is literally halfway between the two joints. Literally 99% of the people that I fit will fall plus or minus a 1/16 of an inch off the line halfway between the two joints. And this is really along the lines with a proper basic IPSIA fit. So this type of teaching is pretty much universal around the country. All right, so then what I'm going to do here, and this is his bowling ball. To check his fit, is the first thing we're going to do is drop his thumb all the way in the hole. Now, what's important here is how the operator handles the hand, because we can get some false readings, especially if you have a hand that's incredibly flexible. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my hand or my thumb is on top of his thumb, and we want the thumb to first go all the way in the hole, and secondly, we don't want to allow the thumb to come off the ball. So if I pull his hand and he does one of these numbers, the span is going to look like it's increasing, but obviously the thumb is wedged in the hole. It's not sitting flat. So we're going to do that again. Put your thumb all the way in the hole. All right, and now with me holding down on this part of his thumb, I can pull as hard as I want to. What I'm trying to get here is how much tension I'm going to get on this wedge. I usually like a medium tension. I don't want a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't want to be pulling it really hard, but I also don't want it completely relaxed, just to where I have medium tension. Usually for bowlers that are beginning, I'm not going to stretch the span out quite as far, and also as the bowler's skill level increases, you can usually put a little more tension on that web. It's critical because as the thumb comes out, this tension on this web helps the thumb clear properly and clear on time as the weight gets from the thumb to the finger so that we can apply rev rate. So again, thumb on top of the thumb, pull, and as you can see here, we've got a nice, that middle line that's halfway between the two joints falls right on top of the line on both fingers. So his span looks pretty good. Obviously he got it fit here, so I knew that it was going to be pretty good. If the span was a little too short, those lines would obviously be sitting on the grip. And then usually what we see, we don't see too short a span. We usually see that if we're going to make a span adjustment, we're actually going to shorten it a little bit, and these lines would be in a different place. But again, the way to adjust that, or a way to evaluate that, it's very much critical that you get your thumb all the way in the hole and you press down. Then you can apply as much tension as you want, not allowing the thumb to come out of the hole. All right. The other line that you see on Josh's thumb here is I've drawn a kind of a center line that represents the center of his thumb on his knuckle. All right. And what we're going to try to do here is, today it is very common with what we've learned and the machinery that we're going to show you, is that as you can see here down the shaft of his thumb, that I've never really measured somebody that had a round thumb. It's all more of an oval shape. So today we can actually customize every person's hands that comes in, with regardless of what the shape is. And he's got something that I typically see on men, where it's really small here and really big there, and we actually cut for that to where the top of the hole is much bigger here, and then it gets smaller there, and it's we actually shape the hole top to bottom the way we want it. So what I'm trying to do here is really look at his thumb as it is, the shape that it is, and then I'm going to measure everything I can measure, and then create that shape using the tools, and also using a drill press that allows me to do that. So what we have here is, go ahead and put your hand in there for me, Josh, like you normally would, fingers first and then your thumb. All right. What we can do here is I'm going to measure. I'm going to make a little mark here, and using my handy dandy tool, my Prosect, it allows me to draw angles. So there's the center of his thumb, and then I can go 180 from that, and this angle here would be the angle of his what we call his oval angle. Now he just happens to have something very common, which is 45 degrees, and it's very important that I measure this correctly, because if I don't get the angle right, his thumb is not going to seat in the ball right, and as it starts to escape, it's going to put a stress point on some other part of his thumb, and he's going to get knots and bruises and blood blisters and big calluses. And Josh, you probably bowl 50 games a week, and as you can see here, he's just got some normal small calluses on his thumb. There's no real abrasions or anything, and that just tells me that his thumb is seated correctly for him. The angle is correct, the span is correct, and he's not really getting any unusual abrasions. But I have seen where the span has been perfect, the pitches have been perfect, but the oval angle was off 10 or 15 degrees, and the bowler's hand looked like a piece of meat. And just by changing the oval angle, we created a smoother release and certainly less stress on the thumb. So that's how we measure that. And as I said, for most people that we fit, the oval angle is usually somewhere between 40 and 50 degrees. I have seen that as extreme as 60 and probably as small as 20, but that is rare. So, and Josh actually uses a mold, correct?
Yes.
All right. So what we did was we created a thumb that he really liked, and there's a product out there that allows you to actually create a mold for the thumb, and then even with tape in it, and then what he can do is replicate that by pouring epoxy into a mold, and it just replicates that thumb over and over again. So when he wants a new ball, he makes a thumb mold. We make a mark where we need to center it, drill a hole, slap it in with some glue, and his thumbs are exact from ball to ball to ball to ball. Same material, same shape and everything. So truly a custom thumb. I know that when I first started bowling and ball drilling, we didn't have that. So this is very important when it comes to getting out of that thumb consistently, creating a consistent roll shot after shot. All right, so now we're over here at drill press. This particular drill press is an innovative drill vacuum jig. It's my favorite press. It's very efficient, very easy to use, very durable, and more importantly, it repeats the process every single time and allows me to give the customer from ball to ball to ball the same type of service, same type of grip. So one of the ways that we measure ovals is we have actually measuring holes, devices, holes that are actually cut from a round hole to a 30,000 cut, a 60, and a 90 thousandths cut. This will handle the majority of the customers that come here, but occasionally we get somebody that's really wide and very narrow, and anything over 90 thousandths, I'm going to use this device, which is a caliper, and this allows me to measure the length, the width, and the front to back on any thumb. And here, you can get these measurements here. And then once I'm comfortable getting the measurement, I'm going to record it on their spec sheet. And then what I need on the drill press is the digitals. And you can see here, I've got these digitals right here at my height where I can see, and a nice big font so I don't have to squint. And when I move the table front to back, these move in very small amounts, and this allows me to duplicate. If I have to drill 140 thousandths oval at 55 degrees, I need to know those exact movements. Once I record those movements on my spec sheet, I can duplicate that over and over and over again. And as we know, players today, especially if you're serious about the game, you carry 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 15 balls a year that you get drilled. And getting that thumb hole to feel exactly the same is incredibly important, not only for their confidence, but also when they're moving from ball to ball, that the ball comes off their hand the same, regardless if they're throwing their spare ball or they're just moving balls in between games as the ball motion changes because the lane condition is changing. And they don't need an extra shot for their hand to change grip pressure, so they're not giving up any frames during the competition. A professional ball driller can duplicate that. One of the tools that allows us to do a really great oval is called an end mill bit. Now this bit is different than the bit that we're actually going to drill the hole. So here's a regular drill bit. As you can see, it's going to create a round hole, and it has two sides to it, two blades. these blades are not very long. This is what I'm going to drill the pilot hole with. To create the oval, I'm going to take the same size bit, and if you notice, I don't have 2 sides, I have 4. And then also the length of the shaft, or the cutting edge, is about 3 times the length. So this allows me to just, once I drill the hole, I replace this with an end mill bit, and then I start making my moves on the digitals here, both front and back and side to side, and then I make exact cuts using this. Now, what I love about this is I will get the same size from the top to the bottom when I use an end mill bit to cut an oval. If I use this to cut an oval, I'm going to get some variation from the top to the bottom because of the length and how much cutting area I have on this. It will actually create some deflection, and I'll get kind of a snow cone effect, whereas this, I'll get the precise cut that I want every single time. The hole is also very, very smooth, and aside from touching the top of the hole with some bevel, I won't even really need to touch it with a sander if I don't feel like it warrants from the customer. So very neat tool. These cost about 125 bucks a piece. I don't believe we've ever had to sharpen them in the 10 years that we've had them. So a great product, and something that I won't drill an oval without. So anyway, these are some of the tools that we use to do our job, to really customize the fit, and it's imperative that we have these tools to be able to service the customer today. The environment on the lanes actually dictates it, and you know, if you're inconsistent with your release with a reactive bowling ball, the ball goes all over the place and you can't control the break point. So it is imperative that the pro shop operator, and especially here at the Kegel Training Center, that we have these types of tools to better serve our customer. Hope this helps you understand a little bit about the importance of a grip and some of the aspects that goes into it, and maybe some of these tips will help you, and you can have a better conversation with your pro shop operator.